Heavy glass doors of Archstone Bank's flagship branch slid open with a quiet whoosh. Danica Graves, the youngest and only black female CEO in the institution's 150-year history, stepped inside in her signature navy blue power suit. Eyes turned, whispers followed. But Danica kept her chin high, heels clicking with calm authority, until she reached the front desk. "Ma'am, you'll need to step back," the security guard said stiffly, hand hovering over his holster. Danica blinked. "Excuse me? You're not allowed in the building. Orders from the board." Behind him, 2 more guards flanked the marble lobby. Tension choked the air. "I'm the CEO," she said firmly, voice ice. "This is my bank. Not anymore." A tall, silver-haired man in a $1,000 suit stepped forward, James Whitford, chairman of the board. His smile was smug, almost gleeful. "Effective as of 8 a.m. today, you've been removed. Unanimous vote. You're trespassing now, Danica." People stopped walking. Phones came out. Whispers turned into gasps. Danica's jaw tensed. "Why? You know why. You pushed too far. Community reinvestment, staff raises, giving loans to unfavorable neighborhoods. That's not profitable. We need leadership that understands business, not activism." "You mean leadership that looks like you," she said, steel in her voice. James didn't flinch. "Take her out." The guards moved forward. Danica was stunned, but not afraid. She allowed herself to be escorted out, but not before turning around at the door. To everyone watching, remember this moment. The doors slammed behind her. She stood on the sidewalk, heart pounding. And then her phone buzzed. "It's done," the message read. "They have no idea what's coming." Danica stood outside the towering Archstone Bank headquarters, the sun glinting off the glass walls behind her like a silent witness to betrayal. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes were fire. She tapped her phone and spoke calmly. "Initiate phase 1. Send the files to the press." On the other end, her trusted assistant Marisol responded instantly. "Already in motion. Should hit the financial networks in 3 minutes." Danica slipped on her sunglasses and walked down the sidewalk as if she owned the city, because in many ways she did. What the board forgot in their arrogance was that Danica didn't just build Archstone's public reputation, she built its digital infrastructure, its investor relations, and its legal firewalls. Without her, the empire would crumble. She got into a sleek black Tesla parked at the curb. Inside, Marisol was waiting with a laptop already open, data flashing. "Everything's set," Marisol said. "And you're trending already." Danica looked at the screen. Hashtag Danica Graves, hashtag bank takeover, hashtag Archstone scandal. "Good," she said. "Let them try to erase me. Now they'll answer to everyone." Just then, a notification lit up her phone. It was from an anonymous whistleblower, an internal document from Archstone's boardroom. It confirmed what she suspected. Not only was her ousting racially motivated, but they'd been quietly laundering funds through shell accounts in offshore banks. Danica's lip curled. They wanted war. Now they've got one. Back at Archstone HQ, chaos was unfolding. News anchors reported breaking stories of corruption, discriminatory lending practices, and insider trading, all linked to the board. Employees whispered. Clients panicked. Stockholders started calling. Danica watched the numbers drop in real time. She wasn't just going to reclaim her seat inside the top floor of Archstone's ivory tower. The boardroom buzzed with smug satisfaction. James Whitford sipped his espresso, unaware that their empire was already bleeding. "Gentlemen, the reign of Queen Danica is over," he said. Laughter followed. 11 other board members raised their glasses in mock celebration. She thought she could run this place like a charity, scoffed board member Alan Pierce. Loans to single mothers, startups in the hood, were a bank, not a shelter. They didn't know the cameras were rolling. A junior analyst, nervously clutching coffee near the doorway, was live-streaming the conversation, straight to social media. Her name was Nia Jefferson, a quiet intern Danica once mentored. The clip hit TikTok, Instagram, and X within minutes. "This is how they talk about our communities?" One user wrote. Danica, in the Tesla just blocks away, watched it all unfold. Her fingers tightened on the armrest, but her voice stayed calm. "Send the video to national news outlets," she said. Marisol clicked. Done. The fallout was instant. Celebrities reposted it. Lawmakers called for investigations. Civil rights lawyers offered pro bono help. Protesters began to gather outside Archstone branches. The empire was under siege, and Danica hadn't even stepped back inside yet. "Start prepping the press conference," she told Marisol. "But not here." "Where then?" Danica smiled. "At the headquarters." Marisol blinked. "But they locked us out." Danica looked out the window, fire burning in her chest. "They locked me out of the building, not the company. That was their biggest mistake." She turned to her assistant. "They think this is just about me. But this fight? This is for every person they've ignored, rejected, and profiled." She leaned forward, voice like thunder. "We're taking it all." By the time Danica and Marisol arrived back at Archstone HQ, the sidewalk was no longer empty. It was a battlefield. Hundreds of protesters lined the streets, entrepreneurs, families, veterans, students, all holding signs that read "We are Danica" and banking on justice. News vans lined the road, drones buzzed overhead, live streaming everything. Danica stepped out of the car. The crowd erupted. Reporters shoved microphones forward. "Danica, are you suing? Will you fight for your position back? Is it true they laundered funds?" She didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, she walked directly to the front entrance. The same security guard who had removed her hours earlier stood firm, his jaw tight. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Orders are still in place." Danica handed him a folded document. "Not anymore. This is a federal injunction, signed by Judge Ramirez 10 minutes ago." The guard opened it. His eyes widened. Behind him, the lobby lights flickered back on and the access terminal beeped. "Authorization accepted. Danica Graves, CEO." The board had made a legal error. By ousting her without cause and leaking private financial records, they violated corporate bylaws. Danica's legal team pounced, and the court acted fast. The guard stepped aside. Danica entered. Inside, executives scattered like startled mice. Phones rang non-stop. Stock was plummeting. Employees began clapping as she walked past them, her presence magnetic. At the boardroom door, James Whitford stood frozen. "You can't be here." Danica stopped inches from him. "Oh, I can. And I am. You think a few protests and a viral clip scare us?" "No," Danica said, "but federal auditors do." She stepped aside, revealing two men in black suits flashing badges. "SEC, you're under investigation." The color drained from James's face. Danica whispered, "Told you. I built this empire." The boardroom once used to hum with quiet power. Now it echoed with fear. Danica stood at the head of the long oak table, a place she had earned through brilliance, grit, and sacrifice. Behind her, two federal agents unpacked documents and devices, surveillance footage, wire transfers, confidential board memos. James Whitford sat motionless, sweat beading his temple. Other members looked pale, their bravado vanished. Danica's voice cut through the silence. "For years I worked to make this institution serve everyone. We grew under my leadership, revenue, reputation, reach. And the moment I made it clear that compassion wasn't optional, you tried to erase me." She walked slowly along the table's edge, meeting each board member's gaze. "You used my face to push diversity, used my success to impress investors. But when I started changing the system, you panicked." James tried to interject. "This is—" Danica raised a hand. "Quiet. You'll have time to speak to a judge." A soft knock came at the door. Marisol entered, tablet in hand. "It's live now." Danica nodded. On a massive screen behind her, a global press conference began. Cameras panned to Danica. Her voice, calm and strong, echoed through homes, offices, and phones around the world. "I'm not just reclaiming my title," she announced. "I'm rebuilding Archstone from the inside out. The corruption ends today." Outside, cheers erupted. Social media exploded with support. Thousands of customers pledged loyalty to her, not the name on the glass. Danica turned back to the table. "Effective immediately, this board is dissolved." James rose, outraged. "You can't do that." Danica smiled coolly. "I can, and I just did." Behind her, the SEC agent handcuffed James Whitford. Danica sat at the head of the table. Not just as CEO, but as a legend reborn. The news of James Whitford's arrest blazed across every major outlet within minutes. Corrupt bank chairman cuffed after CEO reclaims power led every headline. But Danica wasn't watching the media frenzy. She was working. Inside her restored office, she stood before a whiteboard already filled with plans. Marisol typed rapidly on a laptop beside her. They weren't just fixing a broken system, they were tearing it down to the foundation. Start with mortgage audits, Danica said. Every loan denied under the previous board needs review. On it, Marisol replied, and the DOJ just called. They want a formal statement tomorrow. Danica smiled faintly. Let them wait. I've got something more important today. Downstairs, employees gathered in the atrium, some tearful, others stunned. They'd watched her be humiliated. Now they watched her rebuild. Danica stepped up to a mic. Her voice was warm but firm. This company belonged to the powerful few. Not anymore. We're building a bank for everyone, fair, transparent, and just. If you're here for that mission, I want you beside me. If not, you know where the door is. The room erupted in applause. Former clients who'd been denied loans for trivial reasons began receiving calls. Branches reopened in underserved areas. Scholarships were announced for minority finance students. Everything Danica had once dreamed of, she was finally delivering. Outside, protesters turned into supporters. Chants of Danica, Danica filled the streets. She didn't ask for a movement, but she became one. At home that night, Danica sat quietly on her balcony. Her phone buzzed with hundreds of messages. One caught her eye, a simple DM. Because of you, I'm applying to business school. Thank you. Danica didn't reply. She just smiled and started drafting something bigger. But while Danica inspired the world, not everyone was celebrating. In a smoky office uptown, a rival executive watched her rise on 3 screens. Grant Kellerman, CEO of a competing institution, had once mocked Danica as a diversity hire. Now she was stealing headlines, clients, and even regulators' praise. "This can't stand," he hissed, swirling scotch in his glass. Across the desk, his lawyer smirked. "There's still one angle left. You know her past." Grant's eyes narrowed. "You mean the foster care records? Sealed but not unreachable. If we frame her as unstable or fraudulent," Grant leaned forward, "then we burn her from the inside." At that moment, Danica was reviewing HR reports when Marisol entered with a concerned look. "We've got a problem. Someone just leaked a rumor about your background, saying you lied about your credentials." Danica froze. "What?" "It's already spreading. Financial blogs, anonymous sources, the works." Danica walked to the window, heart pounding, not from fear but fury. She knew exactly who was behind it. Grant had always hated her rise. But what he didn't understand was that Danica didn't bury her past because she was ashamed. She did it because she wanted her work to speak louder. Now she had a choice: defend or destroy. "Get the video crew," she said. "Video? I'm telling my story. On my terms." That night, Danica sat in front of a camera and told the world the truth about her childhood, foster homes, nights without heat, and working through college. She exposed everything and reframed it as strength. The internet didn't turn on her, it embraced her. #Danicarizing trended again. Her honesty only deepened the movement. Grant watched, veins bulging. "This isn't over," he growled. But deep down he knew he'd already lost. Danica's transparency had disarmed her enemies, but the system had more teeth. Within days, Archstone's former insurance provider dropped them. Partner firms paused collaboration. Regulatory bodies announced sudden audits. The financial establishment was pushing back. "They're trying to freeze us," Marisol warned. "Let them," Danica said calmly, but she wasn't naive. She knew this was retaliation disguised as policy. Still, she had allies. A meeting was arranged with Senator Hale, a long-time advocate for financial reform. In a sleek Capitol Hill office, Danica laid out her vision: a national standard for fair lending, protections for underbanked communities, and new oversight for corporate boards. The senator leaned back, impressed. "You don't just want to fix Archstone. You want to fix everything." "I have to," Danica replied, "because I'm not the only one they tried to silence." The senator nodded. You'll face backlash, Danica smirked. Already am. Back at HQ, another crisis emerged. Servers were hit with a cyber attack, likely from someone on the inside. Systems locked. Client access crashed. It was chaos. Danica remained unshaken. Bring in the emergency cybersecurity team. And while they work, bring every branch manager to the Zoom floor. Within hours, she hosted a live call with hundreds of employees. I need you to hold the line, she said. No matter what happens, remember who we are now. We fight for the people banking with nickels, not millions. Her voice steadied their nerves. They saw not a CEO, but a commander. By morning, the systems were restored. Evidence pointed to a former board associate, now facing charges. Danica didn't celebrate. She planned, because now she wasn't just defending a bank. She was starting a revolution. 6 months later, Archstone Bank didn't just survive. It soared. Under Danica's leadership, profits had doubled without sacrificing ethics. New branches opened in underserved areas. Minority-owned businesses secured record-level funding. Customer satisfaction broke records. And Wall Street? They were stunned. But the greatest shift wasn't financial, it was cultural. Other CEOs, once dismissive, began re-evaluating policies. Business schools taught the Danica model. Communities once excluded from banking were now center stage. The industry was changing, slowly but visibly. Danica stood in the headquarters grand auditorium, delivering a keynote to thousands. I wasn't supposed to be here, she began. I was supposed to be a cautionary tale. Another too ambitious black woman erased from the story. She paused, letting the weight settle. But I refused to be erased. And now I'm rewriting the narrative, not just for me, but for everyone who's ever been told they don't belong in the room. Standing ovation. Across the country, young women of color posted selfies holding copies of her new book, Banking on Truth. Communities painted murals of her in cities she'd revitalized. Her name became more than a person, it became a promise. Still, Danica never forgot what started it all. The betrayal, the glass doors, the security guards, the smug laughter. Now, when she walked through those same doors each morning, the staff stood and greeted her with pride. Not because she demanded it, but because she earned it. And one evening, as she passed a new marble plaque in the lobby, she paused. This bank stands on justice, founded by many, reclaimed by one, signed Danica Graves. Years later, a young intern nervously walked into the grand office once occupied by legends. Danica Graves sat at the desk, her hair now flecked with grey, but her eyes just as fierce. You wanted to see me, Miss Graves? Danica smiled. Yes. Sit down, Olivia. The girl obeyed, clutching her notebook. You remind me of me, Danica said. When I first walked into this building, they barely saw me, tried to erase me, thought I was just a phase. Olivia looked stunned. But you're you. Everyone knows who you are. Danica leaned forward. Only because I fought every single day not to be forgotten. She handed Olivia a sealed envelope. What's this? The girl asked. A letter you'll open 10 years from now, when it's your turn to lead. You mean? Danica nodded. I'm stepping down. Tears welled in Olivia's eyes. But the bank needs you. Danica stood, looking out over the skyline. No, the bank needs you. The world doesn't change through one person. It changes when we all rise. Outside, a new sign gleamed on the tower, Graves Financial, banking for the future. She had renamed the institution, not for vanity, but for victory. Her face wasn't on currency, but her legacy was. She walked through the lobby one last time, past portraits of former executives, now replaced by community leaders and educators. The doors opened, sunlight poured in. Danica Graves, once thrown out, humiliated, underestimated, now walked into history, not just as a CEO, but as a revolution in heels.